Well, when we're looking at the various factions in the West, the various political factions in the West, the political spectrum of views and so on, from the right wing to the left wing, the socialists, communists, what have you, on the left, the woke, the progressives, and so on, to the evangelical Christians and the white nationalists and the sort of extreme neoliberal capitalists on the right wing side. But if we do away with all the labels, all of the labels that they give to themselves, if we look at what they actually are and what they actually advocate and what their attitude is and what their perspective is with regards to us, with regards to the Muslims, with regards to the global South and the people of the Muslim world and the people of the global South, well, we'll see that they're all more or less on the same page with each other in relation to us. They all have a colonizer mentality. They all have a colonizer mindset, and they are all opposed to, and they do not fundamentally accept for us to ever be sovereign. This is what we have to do, frankly. This is how we have to look at it. We have to remove their labels and look at it from our perspective. Because, we've always assumed that one faction or the other was on our side. Usually it was the so-called leftists. And they benefited from that assumption. But we were misled by that assumption. Because no, Western so-called leftists are just as opposed to our sovereignty as the most rabid right-winger. Because the way it turns out, their Westernness supersedes their political ideology. Because Westernness is a condition, not an ideology. It's a whole way of existing in the world. It's a whole way of looking at the world. A sense of entitlement, a sense of superiority. It's that main character syndrome. Now, they're not on our side. They think that we are side characters in their story. And they think that they're the authors of our story, in fact. They insist on believing that they're the authors of our story. And you can see this in how they approach everything, how they approach Gaza, Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, and anything else, to be honest. They imagine that they get to approve or disapprove of what anyone in the global South does, anyone in the Muslim world, anything that we do. And they think that their approval or their disapproval is supposed to be definitive and authoritative. Like, say, they approve militant resistance. They encourage it. They're fanboys of Hezbollah, for example, and they cheer Iran's bombastic rhetoric. And this is the only type of strategy in the Middle East that they deem to be legitimate. And they will curse and they will condemn diplomatic, political, and economic strategies that are being employed by the Arab states or by other actors. So they imagine that they get to declare this or that government in the Muslim world to be traitors. They get to decide that. They'll say that the Muslim leaders are traitors or they're quislings or they're weak or what have you, that they're complicit and so forth. It's sheer Western arrogance, sheer Western entitlement. You think you can say these things. And it is all and always anti-Muslim and anti-global South sovereignty. Anti-Muslim sovereignty, anti-global South sovereignty. Again, just like this so-called march on Gaza. I've literally seen people saying that Egypt should welcome and be grateful for the protesters coming to Egypt because they're going to be spending money in Egypt on hotels and whatnot, transportation, food, and what have you. Imagine thinking that your poxy few hundreds of dollars are supposed to be enough to make a whole sovereign nation kowtow to you. You understand? Egypt's tourism economy is over $14 billion. And those tourists are not there to protest. They're not there to break the law. They're not there to disrupt and destabilize. They're not there to raise tensions and pressure, put pressure on the government. They don't have the objective of trying to make Egypt look bad, and that's your objective. Meanwhile, you think that a whole sovereign country is supposed to appease you and placate you because you're going to book a hotel and buy some shawarma? I mean, the delusional condescension. And of course, when you point out how many problems they might potentially cause by their march and how much trouble they themselves might get into by their march, well, their response is, we'll do what we went there to do and then we'll go home. That's what they said. Like they have no grasp of how belligerent that is. How obnoxious that is. Yes, you will just go home. You get to go home. And the people whose home it is will have to deal with the aftermath of what you did after you've gone home. You see? Colonizer activism. I've seen these so-called leftists ranting, for example, about Syria, about the end of Bashar al-Assad. and saying that now Syria is pro-Zionist, that they're going to normalize with Israel and what have you, calling the new government in Syria traitors and what have you. See what I mean? I'm telling you, we need to come up with some other sort of categorization system for identifying the actual real existing different types within the Western political spectrum. Because left and right are the same. Like I said before, there are neocons and then there are camouflage neocons. And that's roughly what you have on the right and the left. Neocons and camouflage neocons. You have the open colonizers and then you have the colonizers who wear masks. And that's the left. Because look, first of all, Bashar al-Assad was not overthrown. He was removed by regional consensus. And that is by definition a sovereign process. That's a process of collective sovereignty. His removal was an expression of regional cooperation and regional cohesion. The new government was not installed by a revolution just because you say it was. It was installed by committee, by the cooperative agreement of all the power players who have influence in Syria, who had been fighting for more than a decade. Secondly, the overwhelming majority of Syrians welcome the change and they support the government. And even those who may not be happy with the government, they at least support stabilization of Syria. They support trying to get their country out of a more than a decade of war and misery. But you don't approve. Well, it's absolutely conspicuous when anyone opposes this, when anyone opposes what's happening in Syria right now. And as far as normalization goes, look, if you actually understand politics, and presumably if you're going to discuss politics, you should understand it. If you understand the region, if you understand power dynamics, and you know how to actually listen to diplomatic language and political language, then you would understand that Syria and Lebanon too have both simply dangled the promise of normalization like a carrot as an incentive for resolving the occupation of Palestine. Prince Turki al-Faisal said as much the other day. He said basically that the other day when he said that the solution to Syria or fixing Lebanon, the prerequisite to that is fixing Palestine. All regional problems stem from Israel, every single one. And everyone in the region who matters is saying that Gaza controls your access, Western world, to stable profits, to the Arab world, to prosperous investments in the Middle East. Gaza controls that. They're leveraging the investment potential of the region to end the occupation and to end the genocide, and pushing for the removal of Netanyahu. This is transparent to see. If you actually understand politics, you understand the region, you understand power dynamics. I mean, do you understand that the post-war reconstruction of Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, this presents one of the largest and most lucrative opportunities for foreign investors in decades. Literally hundreds of billions of dollars in projects with the potential for astronomical profits. If you get in on the ground level, you could earn a return on investment of between 15 and 35% annually. This is one of the most asymmetric upside opportunities on earth, provided you integrate into broader regional redevelopment initiatives that are controlled, or especially those that are led anyway, by the Gulf states and by BRICS-aligned actors. It's one of those things where they're basically saying to the Western world, all this can be yours, but there's just one thing preventing it, and that's Israel. But you disapprove, you activists disapprove, as if you have a right to an opinion. Let's be clear. Syria will decide what kind of relationship they will or will not have with Israel. Lebanon will decide what kind of relationship they will or will not have with Israel, and they don't need your approval, and they don't need your permission. That's what sovereignty means, and that's what you don't like. Whether you're on the right or the left, you don't like it. You can't stand it for Muslims to be sovereign. But look, you don't live in Syria. You don't live in Lebanon. You live in the countries that arm Israel, fund Israel, and shield Israel diplomatically and politically at every turn. You know, you live in the belly of the beast, or anyway, that's what we always say. But all too often, you actually operate like you are the beast, like you're a limb of the beast. You know, from over there in the West, you like to wag your finger at the nations that actually have to survive that beast's fangs and that beast's attacks. And you want to dictate to us what you think resistance is supposed to look like. You know, you want to lecture us on how to protect our necks while you keep paying taxes to the hand that's choking us. You understand? I mean, it's your boot on our necks. It's your boot. And then you want to dictate to us how we're supposed to deal with that boot. Let's be honest. You're the project. We should stop pretending otherwise. You're the Zionist project. Israel didn't land over here out of nowhere. It's the direct product of your governments, of your societies, of your economic system, of your values and your power. And now when we, those who are forced to live with this reality that you thrust upon us, when we try to navigate the least catastrophic ways to deal with it, you scream betrayal. And you think you get to define for us what is principled, while you sit under the same roofs or under the same roof as the one that's raining down the bombs on us. I mean, you're literally in the control center. Muslims need to think about that, whether they're in the West or outside. You need to think about that. These people are literally in the Western command center where all the decisions are made, where all the violence is launched from. And they're now telling you in the Muslim world, in the Middle East, what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go, how you're supposed to act. Well, what makes you think they're not just trying to get you into position, trying to get you in position so that they can strike you better? How do you trust what they're saying when they're over there where your open enemies are? No, they wear resistance like a fashion trend at best. And they wear it as camouflage at worst. You mouth off about Palestine while sipping your cappuccinos over there in America or London or what have you, while at the same time you campaign for politicians who pledge their loyalty to Tel Aviv. No, Muslims, don't mistake these people's commentary for their commitment. If you look closely, you'll see that all of their opinions are actually nothing but claims of ownership. Their opinions are claims of ownership. Right wing, left wing, it's all the same. It's all the same. These are two wings of the same colonial vulture. The liberals will drone strike you with rainbow flags. The conservatives will drone strike you with Jesus and with democracy. You know? They just are arguing about how best to manage your subjugation, but neither is on your side. Don't ever believe that they are. Neither will liberate you. Neither believe that you should even have the final say over your own fate. But the position of Middle Nation on this is very clear. Our nations, the Muslim nations, the nations of the global South, we will choose our own paths, on our own terms, by our own calculations, not yours. By what is in our interests, not what you tell us is in our interests. We don't owe you a performance of resistance that satisfies your need for a certain kind of optics. And we're not going to die for your approval. So if you want to help over there in the West, you start from where you are. Confront your state. Confront your system. Your states and your systems that are actually to blame. Confront the structures in your societies that gave birth to the occupation that you claim to hate. But don't you dare tell us how we're supposed to resist it or how we're supposed to deal with it. We live here, you don't. I mean, what's the difference, really, when you think about it like this? What's the difference between non-Muslim Westerners who colonize our lands and the non-Muslim Westerners who then want to tell us how we're supposed to decolonize our lands? No, they're both opposed to our sovereignty. They both think that they have a right to control us. They both think that we are their subjects who have to follow their orders, who need their approval and who fear their disapproval. For me, wallahi, I don't see a difference. So no, the so-called leftists and the so-called right-wingers are both irrelevant to our liberation. We have no need for their labels. We will categorize you according to ourselves, according to our own criteria, and that criteria is based upon our own epistemology and our own frameworks. And one of the primary factors is whether or not you even respect us enough to acknowledge that we have the right to make our own decisions for our own people, without you trying to now approve or disapprove or intervene or judge or impose your unsolicited advice upon us. You're not us. You're not in our situation. You're not from our people. You're not from our culture. You're not from our religion. And you're not even from our region. You have about as much business being in our affairs as being in our lands. No, we're ending all occupations, physical occupation and intellectual occupation.